Yang Berhormat Datuk Liew Vui Keong, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Excellencies, Dato, ladies and gentlemen, selamat pagi, salam sejahtera, selamat datang. It's my honor to welcome here the Honorable Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Yang Berhormat Datuk VK Liew, to be with us here this morning to deliver the keynote address at our Banking and Finance Summit 2019. We believe that it is very apt and relevant for the Minister to speak to us today as we see a very strong nexus between banking and business confidence and the rule of law, governance, reforms, and accountability. And as a minister responsible for legal and parliamentary affairs, we hope Yang Berhormat Datuk Liew can share with us some of the thoughts and plans and policies of the government in ensuring greater accountability, better governance, and continued reforms so that there can be growing trust, an issue that was raised by the last panel earlier this morning, as well as to enhance ethical leadership in both the public and private sectors. These are increasingly more important and relevant issues for the business community in general. I do believe that bankers and businessmen need from the government more of the 3 C's: clarity, consistency, and certainty in government policies and actions. We are pleased that the government has, over the last close to 1 year now, embarked on a number of reforms and initiatives. And we hope that Liew can enlighten us on some of these new developments and changes. Banking today operates in a new era, as we have heard from the opening panel earlier this morning, of the major technological changes impacting on banking. I believe that there are 3 Ds that face the banking community: data, digitalization, and debt. And I think these 3 Ds will continue to occupy the minds of many bankers for the next several years. We are also perhaps on the threshold of virtual banks, with some overseas jurisdictions already having given out licenses for such digital banks, banks without walls or branches. We're not sure how these will impact on Malaysia, or whether Malaysia will go the way that some jurisdictions have already taken with the introduction of virtual banking. But whatever it is, we believe that banking in the new era requires new strategic leadership, new regulatory environment, as well as continued customer protection. The future is already here with us, and we cannot stop the future. We cannot stop the march of technology, such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data, on the world of banking. Hence, we have chosen as a key focus of the Banking Summit this year technology and governance and risk management. For we think these are the priorities that bankers need to focus on. I'd like to end by once again welcoming our Honourable Minister to be with us here this morning. Thank you also to all our speakers, our moderators, and our corporate sponsors for your continued support of this event. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you. Thank you to the Master of Ceremony, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Liew, President Kingsley Strategic Institute, KSI, Excellencies, distinguished guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start off by commencing my thanks to Tan Sri Michael Liew and KSI for inviting me to this morning event, the 2019 Malaysia Banking and Finance Summit. As you all are aware, rules on corporate governance has been considerably strengthened in most jurisdictions, including Malaysia, over the past few years. Good corporate governance practices are essential to preserving investor confidence in companies. But corporate governance rules do not operate in isolation and need to work in tandem with other factors to create a well-functioning space that is trusted by all stakeholders. Policymakers and analysts have sifted through the wreckage of the Asian financial crisis of 1997 and the subsequent crisis in Russia, Turkey, and Argentina to discern key lessons so that similar crises will not recur. Some lessons are by now well understood. Pegged exchange rates can encourage excessive borrowing and expose country to financial collapse when foreign exchange reserves run dry. Inadequate discourses by both private companies and public bodies can lead to similar dangers. Although many factors undoubtedly contributed to this crisis, it is now widely recognized that each suffered from a failure in governance, and in particular, a failure in governance in their financial sectors. A well-functioning financial system would help to accelerate economic growth, make that growth more equitable by spreading the benefit to all sections of society, reduce poverty, and would strengthen Malaysia's status as an emerging upper middle income country. To this end, the government's focus on maintaining and strengthening the stability of its financial system over the past few decades has been highly successful and needs to be continued. Ladies and gentlemen, governance issues in financial institutions are similar but differ in important ways from those in non-financial companies. Financial institutions are charged with upholding the public's trust and protecting depositors. Balance sheets are more opaque, leading to less transparency and greater ability to conceal problems. Good governance therefore requires boards and senior management to fulfill their fiduciary responsibility by effectively communicating strategic business direction and risk appetite while assuring transparent and effective organizations, risk assessment and mitigation, and sufficient capital support. In Malaysia, the Security Commission has launched the Corporate Governance Blueprint in the year 2011, which outlined the strategic objective for strengthening market discipline among capital market participants. One of the deliverables of the blueprint was the publication of a revised Malaysian Code on Corporate Governance in 2012. A key feature of that code is the emphasis on the role of directors and the need for a strong board compositions. Within the financial sector, the foundations for corporate governance has been further strengthened with the enactment of the Financial Services Act 2013 and Islamic Financial Services Act 2013. The function and corrective duties of boards of directors and the fit and proper requirement for key responsible persons are now clearly eroded in law, encoded in law. Boards of directors are now required by statute when making decisions to consider the interests of various stakeholders such as depositor, investment account holder, insurance policy owner, and takaful participants. The new legislation also provides Bank Negara Malaysia with enhanced power to take preemptive supervisory intervention against financial institutions to mitigate the risk of governance failures. As you're all aware, ladies and gentlemen, real change cannot be detected by regulation alone. This is neither sustainable or possible. Instead, principles of good governance need to be deeply woven into the fabric of an organization. Directors and senior management, as leaders of financial institutions, are in the positions to foster a positive organizational culture. The board and senior management should work in harmony to cultivate an environment which appropriately balances between performance and stability. Needless to say, the accepted behavior and values promoted and demonstrated by the senior leadership will influence the business cultures and values throughout the organizations. Good governance ultimately depends on the existence of strong and competent boards and a pool of professional senior management. To remain effective, boards are often confronted with the challenge of achieving an optimal balance between the need for continuity and the need for fresh perspective. This brings into question the issue of board compositions and membership, and now how talents on board should be continuously renewed. Because financial institutions are complex creatures, longer-serving individual director can bring a depth of knowledge and experience into the business of the financial institutions, which would consequently strengthen the ability of the board to provide effective oversight. Such continuity also encourages a cohesive board. However, if not balanced appropriately, this can also lead to complacency and ground grouping, and as a result, the institution will remain stagnant and uncompetitive. It is my hope that as we venture into the future, this summit will steer a dialogue toward developing a deeper understanding of the contemporary issues that confront the industry and yield new perspective and insight around governance issues. Allow me to reiterate that having in place a good governance structures will ensure that corruption and malpractices are weeded out. Conferences such as this make an important contribution to that process. And ladies and gentlemen, going back to what Tan Sri Michael Yeoh has said, that it is just another week or so that Pakatan Harapan will be having a one-year anniversary as the new government. And here, I wish to again appreciate all the supports of all of you who have voted for change on the 9th of May last year. And now we have a Prime Minister, as I said just now, and that sometimes it is important that we can have a longer serving individuals to harm the government. And now we have a 93 years old Prime Minister who probably is the longest living serving Prime Minister in the world, with a living spouse, Tun Siti Hasma, by his side. So this couple is just an amazing couple who have been traveling extensively for one purpose, that is to ensure that our country will prosper. In an span of just less than a week after coming into power, the Prime Minister has set up the Institutional Reform Committee to look into the various sectors in the country, especially the 7 institutions that are considered as the pillar of the strength of this country, namely Parliament, police reform, the appointment of top civil servants, and also inclusive of the police, the human rights issues, and also the enforcement of corruptions. And as you can see, in the trial of a famous person that is ongoing at this moment, financial leakages are just so appalling during his time, where we have seen the trails of money that have gone from one to the other. And this is not a healthy practice. So since our new government came into power, that was one of the strongest measures undertaken by Tun to ensure that corruptions would not become a core practice in every levels of our society. And we have seen that in the last 1 year, and this has been achieved to an extent that you don't see any members of the cabinet and the top administrations involved in this kind of corruption that was quite the usual practice before. So this is, on its own, I think singularly a greater achievement in this new government. So I think with good governance and good financial practices, we will continue to grow and to have stabilized financial sectors in this country, and then most importantly is to have a stability. And I am sure that with the leaderships of our Prime Minister, Tun, and then the team of hardworking cabinet colleagues will be able to stir the country into a greater height. Just yesterday, a Labor Day, we were all back to the Prime Minister Department to have meetings to deal with the various issues, especially concerning job opportunity for our young people who have, most of them have graduated and then they did not have jobs opportunity, and the cabinet decided to have a meeting yesterday on Labor Day. And then we have discussed various issues. I think the outcome will be spelled out and announced by our Honorable Prime Minister in good time. So with that, I want to thanks once again to Tan Sri Michael Yeoh for inviting me to this very important meeting this morning. And then I wish you all a productive and engaging day. Thank you and a very good morning to all of you.